The arena in Ufa didn't simply fill up that night. It settled into itself, like a place that already knew how the story was supposed to end. Every banner, hanging from the rafters, carried an unspoken assumption. Every chant rolling down from the upper tiers leaned in the same direction. Artur Subkhankulov wasn't just fighting in front of his people, he was performing inside an expectation that had been quietly rehearsed long before the first bell. He carried the look of a fighter accustomed to that weight, shoulders loose, eyes steady, movements efficient and unhurried as he wrapped his hands in the corner. Nothing about him suggested urgency. Champions rarely feel rushed on home ground. Across the ring, however, the atmosphere felt different, heavier, in a way that doesn't show up on broadcast cameras. Tigran Uzlyan's walk to the ring wasn't met with boos or hostility, just indifference. And for fighters who've spent years grinding without spotlight, indifference is louder than hatred. 12 wins, 6 by knockout, 1 loss that followed him like a quiet footnote. No promotional machine, no viral moments, just rounds, gyms, travel, and the unglamorous mathematics of survival in professional boxing. For Uzlyan, this wasn't a showcase. It was a door that rarely opens twice, and everyone in the building except him seemed convinced it would close quickly. From the opening moments, the fight carried the tension of 2 men trying to impose completely different truths. Subkhankulov fought like someone who believed time was an ally. His footwork wasn't flashy, but it was educated, constantly adjusting angles by inches rather than feet, turning the ring into a series of small problems Uzlyan had to solve over and over. The jab came out light, almost dismissive, but it served a deeper purpose. It broke rhythm before it could form. Uzlyan responded in the only way fighters like him ever do, by moving forward, high guard, chin tucked, shoulders tight, absorbing just enough to stay close. He wasn't trying to win exchanges early, he was trying to make the fight uncomfortable, to test whether Subkhankulov enjoyed resistance as much as admiration. And for brief moments, it worked. A stiff jab touched the champion's face. A short hook found the body when Subkhankulov lingered a fraction too long. Nothing dramatic, nothing damaging, but enough to announce presence. What made the early rounds compelling wasn't volume or power, but intention. Subkhankulov never threw punches without purpose. Every combination ended with an exit. Every step backward carried him out of danger before Uzlyan could capitalize. Uzlyan, by contrast, invested energy simply to arrive. Closing distance against a southpaw who refused to stay still demanded effort. And effort without reward taxes the mind as much as the lungs. Still, Uzlyan pressed, driven by something deeper than tactics. He knew this fight wasn't designed for him to win on points. It was designed for him to fade. So he refused to fade early. By the 3rd round, the first real sign of vulnerability appeared. Subtle enough to escape casual viewers, obvious to anyone who spent time ringside. A punch landed not clean, but correctly, brushing the right side of Subkhankulov's face just enough to trigger swelling. It didn't change the fight instantly. It changed the conversation. Eyes swell for a reason, and that reason is repeated contact. Uzlyan began targeting that side with intent, not recklessness, aiming jabs and hooks toward vision rather than damage. For the first time, the crowd noise dipped slightly, replaced by a low murmur of uncertainty. The champion adjusted, but he didn't panic. He shortened his right-hand exits, relied more on touch than power, trusted muscle memory over visual confirmation. This was where experience quietly announced itself. As the rounds unfolded, the fight resisted becoming what many expected. There was no collapse, no dramatic swing. Instead, there was accumulation of fatigue, of data, of small advantages earned rather than taken. Subkhankulov's control wasn't overwhelming, but it was constant. Uzlyan's pressure wasn't ineffective, but it was expensive. Every step forward cost him energy. Every missed opportunity taxed belief. The ring slowly shrank for Uzlyan, not physically, but mentally, as angles disappeared and exchanges unfolded on someone else's terms. Still, he didn't stop. Fighters like him rarely do. By the end of the early stretch, one thing was clear to anyone paying attention. This wasn't a mismatch. It was a test. A test of composure, of adaptability, of whether a champion could win, not just when everything was going right, but when something was quietly going wrong. The swelling around Subkhankulov's eye had become noticeable now, no longer a secret, and the idea that the night might stretch longer than expected settled in. Uzlyan returned to his corner, breathing hard, but standing tall, knowing he'd earned something intangible already: the champion's attention. And in boxing, attention is the first victory an underdog ever gets.